Hello, and welcome to Inventors Helping Inventors. I'm your host, Alan Beckley, inventor of the Wonder Wallet. If you're an inventor searching for proven ways to make money with your invention, if you dream to see your product selling in stores everywhere, you've come to the right place. There's no better place to get help than from experts, inventors who've already achieved success. Every week, I interview successful inventors, asking them the questions you want to know. Tune in to learn from the experts so you can get your invention out of the tank and into the bank.
Turnarounds to me, when I look at a company first, I look at the DNA, I look at the financials, and then I really look, what has it been? Where is it now? Or what should we do to basically fix it? And that's the same approach I have everywhere, whether you start a new company or you fix one.
I'm very excited to bring to you, my podcast listeners, a workshop that I've been doing for a few months now with members of my membership group as well as coaching students. And this powerful workshop is called Tap Powerful AI Tools Workshop. It's going to be on Tuesday, the 28th of October, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'm excited to bring this to podcast listeners. So what are you going to learn in this workshop? First of all, let me just say something very quick. If you're not really tapping the power of AI to save you time, effort, and money so you can spend more time inventing, you are missing out. And I can assure you, you are tapping just a fraction of the real power that's there. So this workshop is going to have two modules. Module 1 is query optimization. You'll learn how to design the perfect optimized query to get right to the specific answers you want. And one of the things that you're going to find is how to create in less than 10 minutes, get this, a competitive product market study for your product with one single well-designed query in AI. You'll learn how to do that in this workshop. And the students in the last workshop were amazed with the benefits of that. But wait, there's more. There's a second module, and that is create images using AI as your artist. Use your imagination, describe what the image you're looking to create, and you can create custom images. Now, on both of these, I'm going to also share with you different AI platforms that you can use easily that will give you particularly good results. So on the creating imagery, we're going to look at 4 different platforms that can help you with that. So how do you get there? You just go to alanbeckley.com/tapai. Again, the link to get there is alanbeckley.com/tapai. The workshop is going to be about an hour and a half on Tuesday, the 28th of October, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I look forward to seeing you there. Oh, don't wait to register. Register now because the limited enrollment is no more than 15 students because this is a hands-on workshop. And I really would like for you to be there. Welcome to episode number 552. Today, I interview Hardy Steinmann. Some inventors just refuse to accept the ordinary. Hardy Steinmann is in that camp. He's a Swiss-born entrepreneur who has redefined everyday products for decades. Most recently is the founder and CEO of Okapa, a luxury water bottle brand built with both artistry and engineering in mind. When Hardy launched Okapa, he wasn't looking to make yet another reusable bottle. He saw a gap where even premium bottles felt disposable or uninspired. By partnering with IDEO and channeling inspiration from Japanese perfume vials, he brought to life a sophisticated modular bottle that's as much a statement as it is a tool. Okapa combines a German borosilicate glass interior, Swiss-engineered thermoplastic cap, and an anodized aluminum shell, each part crafted from medical-grade, fully recyclable materials. Over his career, Hardy has received more than 71 utility and design patents worldwide, thanks to his relentless drive to innovate. His expertise spans global brand building, with iconic names in fashion and premium goods. But the story behind Okapa is an example of a true inventor elevating function, style, and sustainability in one package. You'll want to listen to this entire interview where Hardy shares how he learned that the porosity of most plastic and glass water bottles traps bacteria and retains odors. So he chose a non-porous glass that solved both problems for a better user experience. Also, how he chose to use Nitronic 60 medical grade stainless steel for small parts and the handle, ensuring quality and durability compared to competitors that use cheap plastic for small parts. And finally, how by choosing to create a premium product with top quality materials, his Okapa bottles provide buyers with a trifecta of health, hygiene, and performance other water bottles do not provide. Now let's get right to our interview with Hardy Steinmann. Hardy Steinmann, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast with us today.
Nice to meet you, Alan. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
I think it's going to be fun. To kick it off, could you share a bit about your background with our listeners? Where did you grow up and where did you go to school and what did you do before you became an inventor? Could you share that with our listeners?
Sure. I'm originally from Switzerland. I went to school, my business school and everything I did in Switzerland. I've lived there probably around 25 to 26 years. I was in the watch and jewelry business. After that, I also later on have lived in New York for about 6-7 years. Then I've lived in Asia for 10 years. Then back on the East Coast for about 3 years. And now I'm in California. So about 1/3 almost of of my life, I've lived in different continents. But anyway, I'm 69 or 1/3. I lived on different continents. So I also have, my background is as well. Also, I had some education at Harvard as well. But my background is pretty much jewelry, watches, it's food business in different places, fashion. So I'm a hybrid. I call myself basically a person who is an entrepreneur. At the same time, I was involved in many large corporate companies. So again, my background, I would say I'm a hybrid and I've turned around a lot of companies. When the nose is down, then I like to go in. I really love when basically everybody says, if this is not working, I will go in and I fix it. So I did this for quite a few conglomerates. I did this for the Swatch Group. I did this for DKSH. It's a very big trading company out of Switzerland, both of them in the billions of dollars. So that's pretty much my background. One more thing, Alan, I also did, I worked with Andy Warhol in the 80s. I also had my own watch company at that time. It was called Watch Out. It went against basically a Swatch. We were a competitor to Swatch. So that was another interesting project of mine.
Thank you for sharing that. And clearly you have a diverse background and you've lived in interesting places that I would argue are probably significantly different from one another. And I've done 500 interviews, these podcasts now, and I find your situation in some regard is very common. Most inventors have diverse experiences and they do a variety of different things that looking back, you'd say there doesn't seem to be a connection between any of these. And I always use the Steve Jobs thing where he says you connect the dots. If you look back into your past, like all of your work in the jewelry business probably inspired a lot of your inventive work later on, for example. So everything ultimately fits together in an amazing way, I would say. And I too am a mere lad of 69, so I understand that. And the only places I've really lived besides, I've lived in the U.S. and I've lived in Panama. I was originally born in the Panama Canal Zone. So I have traveled to Asia and Australia, but have never lived in those places. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with our listeners. And that gave them quite a sense. And your company turnaround just by itself is a fascinating story. There's not too many people who are able to do that.
Yeah. Turnarounds to me, when I look at the company first, I look at the DNA, I look at the financials, and then I really look, what has it been? Where is it now? Or what should we do to basically fix it? And that's the same approach I have everywhere. Whether you start a new company or you fix one, you look really, a new one obviously doesn't have a DNA. You create that DNA. But actually what you really focus on, where are the punching points, right? Does a company need or what do you have to revive to make it work in the detail. And then you have to really, I would say, in my eyes, painstakingly fanatic into the detail. And then really look at the roadmap, where you want to go, where this should go, and then make sure you anchor certain steps deep enough, and then basically stick with it. And then you take the hurdles as you go along. Now, there's never a straight line, but I think the main milestones you set out to achieve, you probably have to really focus this and push through. And that's always this. I always take the same approach, Alan. To me, it's a strategy. It doesn't matter what product, whether it's fashion, watches, food, or it's a kitchenware or whatever. It's the interesting part is to look where has this product been? Where is it now? As I said before, where can it go? Or in my particular case, like with the bottle, where is the market today? What's missing there? What has been done wrong? Is there space for something new, and how I'm going to execute it? So that's pretty much my approach, Alan.
So many good points you make there, and I just highlight a couple of them that I think are very relevant to inventors. Looking at history and like, where is the product now? Where are we intending to go with it? What does the market look like? And how is there space or a place where I can essentially fit in where perhaps others haven't seen that? And I think that's useful information that every inventor can and should use when they're evaluating their product against all their competitors out there.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing I always say is you have to know yourself. You really step into this arena, you are really ready to take it on 24/7. I think that's pretty much what it is. I always said you go after something and then you become that something. It's almost like it's a healthy, fanatic way to really identify with it, not to be too overly in love with it. You have to stay extremely critical, because you're the biggest critic of yourself in my eyes and whatever you create. But I think it's very important that you actually align with everything what you're doing so strong and become it, that you're literally living it, that you're living it, and you're able to push it through.
Speaking of invention, let's get to the inventive side of this whole story. You invented Okapa. It's a beautifully engineered water bottle that's protected by 70 utility and design patents. Can you briefly describe the aha moment that caused you to develop this innovative water bottle design? And can you share with us what were the key problems that you were seeking to solve to make it truly superior to other water bottles? Can you share a couple of those points with us?
Sure. I've been using water bottles, I would say probably 20 years ago already, even 25 years ago, and they always had the same problem. They were leaking, they were smelling, they are accumulated bacteria. There is almost like mold growth in many of those, because you were not able to clean in detail in the little corners these bottles. And the materials obviously they are used were just not good. And a lot of bottles were gimmicky, and they just tried to convince the end consumer by putting something out there for a quick fix, make a quick buck. That's why these bottles are relatively inexpensive, $30, $40, $50. And I thought to myself, there is really nothing out there. There's so many issues, how you drink from it, how clean is the content when you drink it, how the materials, what type of materials you're really choosing to make it totally hygienic and really honestly hygienic, and at the same time also give it longevity. And at the end of the whole thing, you have performance, function, the hygiene, the whole thing, you want to also beautify it. And that was actually my moment where I thought, okay, first I wanted to buy a small bottle company. And then I thought, no, this is definitely basically the repair would have been too much and we would have to redo the whole thing. So I said to myself, okay, I'm just going to do it from scratch. That was actually my aha moment. And a little detail, I found a perfume bottle. It's a travel size perfume spray, very small, from Japan. And then I actually basically collected about 200-300 bottles. And then also I collaborated with IDEO, the design firm. in San Francisco. And I went there pretty much with about 300 bottles. So I said, okay, guys, this is what I want. These are the materials I see. And this is the market, what exists at the moment. That was the beginning.
Some of the key points that you made when you looked at it is the problems were pretty clear, that a lot of bottles are leaky and they smelly and they get bacteria because they're hard to clean and they don't tend to stay clean. And then they put things that are gimmicks that appear to be a quick fix. But in the end, it's not really addressing the key problems in any kind of meaningful sort of way. And you wanted to just redesign it from the ground up and solve these key problems that you saw. And one you didn't speak to directly, but I'm sure I suspect this is part of it. I've had it in several different podcasts in the last 6 months. And that is the issue of micro and nanoplastics in everything. And that I think I read somewhere that the average human brain has, if you were to take a plastic teaspoon, that's about the amount of plastic nanoparticles that are likely to be in their brains. Is that something you looked at as well?
Sure. The plastic, besides the side effects of plastic in general, the bad ones, there's also the plastic content you have in your body. And the problem is the container where the liquid stays is actually the most important part. I mean, we use so much plastic everywhere, but at the same time, it's also, it's steel. Even steel bottles, you go in with a brush, you actually create small steel dust and you create little porosity inside the steel. And that's also an issue because there you have bacteria build up. At the same time, you have this little steel dust as you clean it. So plastic, extremely bad for you. Metal, of course, you don't want metal in your body either. So I think is a lot of, and I always think it's a great thing when you want to claim, oh, my bottle, the water stays cold for 36 or 24 hours, I think it is. And then I'm always saying, I mean, for 24 hours, where are you to drink ice cold water, which is not good for your body anyway, because you should actually drink room temperature, but it doesn't matter. Who needs the 24 hours ice cold or boiling hot? Because you're going to replace it, you're going to refill, right? So just to answer you that one, yes.
Again, thank you so much for that. And I think it's going to be fun as we go a little further and dive into the details. Can you briefly describe what your Okapa water bottle looks like? For example, how big is it? How much water does it hold? And I want to point out on your website, you reference that it's made from German borosilicate glass and also that has a built-in aeration system. So can you give our listeners, as we described, a visual description of your product? And also, what is the unique benefit of the borosilicate glass and the aeration system? Can you speak to all three of those elements?
Let me start with the borosilicate 3.3 glass, which is the number one glass in the world. There's probably only 1 or 2 factories in the world they do that. You have the borosilicate 3.3 is a special way of manufacturing it. You use a much higher heat to actually get that done. Borosilicate 3.3 is also used in medical offices where you give blood, basically, because that particular glass has 0 porosity. It's a huge thing. So my first thing was always, I said, if you want to create a bottle like this, I want something which does not take on any odor and doesn't take on any bacteria. That's the glass. So 0 porosity creation, and you have, for example, coffee in there, you just rinse it, you spill it out, and then you replace it by water. There's absolutely no stain taste at all in that glass. So the borosilicate is the most advanced glass in the world. Additionally, you can take it actually from the refrigerator and put boiling water over it, or you can put it in the microwave. So that's the glass. And so the glass then itself is suspended in the bottle. It's held by basically a silicone shock absorption system. And then you have an aluminum shell where there's a certain degree of aluminum needed because when you drop the bottle to absorb the shock. So the aluminum shell basically encases that glass, and the aeration system, I'm calling this because there are holes in the aluminum shell. First of all, you have boiling water in there. You can literally drink that coffee, tea, or hot water, because it gradually cools down. Again, it doesn't stay hot for 24 hours. tell you that because there's no necessity with 17 ounces, right? So you're going to drink the coffee, and if you drink it in 2-3 hours with it being hot, that's fine. So the aeration system really lets it slightly cool down at the same time as the bottle sweats when you put ice cold drinks in there in a hot climate. The sweating of the glass is on the glass, but it doesn't come outside to the shell, and therefore actually it dissipates because of the aeration. We also have aeration in the top cap. There are little holes everywhere where the aeration goes in the top cap through the spout, where anywhere you are, humidity build up, or where you drink, when you drink from the bottle, there's little droplets here and there go, it will aerate off, it evaporates. That's so the whole bottle is actually an interesting way as the parts come together. There's air flowing through all the parts, which we call the aeration system.
Thank you very much for explaining that. And it does make it really crystal clear. I'm fascinated about the borosilicate 3.3 and the point you made, zero porosity. And if you think about it, where does odor and bacteria come from? Things getting clogged up into tiny porous little holes and staying there for a long period of time. That builds up bacteria and odor and everything else. But if there's no porosity, there's nothing to be left behind, I believe. And that this is the most advanced glass used. And in fact, it's used in a lot of medical facilities. And then you also mentioned the aluminum shell, protecting it basically from dropping and other things, but it has holes in the shell. And then you also clearly described the whole point of aeration, that glass that gets cold is going to tend to perspire, for lack of a better term. And that with the aeration, it will just evaporate instead of accumulate somewhere. Did I get that right?
That's correct. Of course, the glass is not directly touching onto the aluminum shell. There is on the bottom, there's a silicone piece in there. On the shoulder of the glass, there's a silicone piece in there. On the spout, there is a silicone gasket. The spout feeds into the glass from the top cap. And on the very top, in the top cap, you have a knob which feeds into the spout. So technically, this sounds maybe a little complicated, right? So technically, the glass is almost not touching onto any hard surface. And all these silicone parts make sure, additionally being encased with this aluminum shell and having a top cap, that it's quite resistant to accidental drops.
I'm going to get to one more detail here, and I think you've already referenced it a bit, but I have to admit that I've never heard of the MIM Nitronic 60 stainless steel that is used for the handle. It sounds like it is an expensive material for the handle, but why is it needed, and what is the key benefit of building the handle from this particular type of stainless steel? Could you speak to that?
I absolutely love it that you asked me that, because that one, Alan, is, if you look at the mechanism and the closing mechanism, those are very little parts, very small. A lot of companies take shortcuts and make them out of plastic, if they even can. And if they're that small, in plastic, there's no way this is going to hold the top cap as it opens and closes, because the top cap has a certain weight, right? There's a compression force opening initially, then the spring taper, and then the spring takes on, then it has to open and it locks in. So it doesn't really, the top cap doesn't fall into your face. So that there is many different steels. At the same time, sorry, one more thing, Alan, of course, this steel has to have the best corrosion resistance. So there's many steels. In the watch business, there is a 904, 316L, all these are great steels. Nitronic 60 has an additional hardness, is doing very well in the process galling, has the least friction of all of them, and has a great corrosion resistance. So the hardness, of course, this is number one. That's why we chose steel, right? Now we go into the MIM process, metal injection molding. So you cannot just stamp this piece of steel because these pieces are done so complicated and complex. You need to inject it. So how you inject steel? What you're going to do, you have steel powder, which is about 22 microns, those little corns, right? You mix it with a feedstock, and now you inject feedstock, that's a polymer. Now you inject this whole thing into a form, and then you get the green part, but it's still mixed with elastomer. You have one piece. Now you put this in a sintering oven. Now all the polymer evaporates out and the steel actually bonds 100% the pure steel in this little part. So essentially, Alan, the same like plastic injection molding, what you do, or you glass like lava, you put it into a form. We did this with the steel powder actually, and at the end get those perfect forms. And you couldn't have it any other way. So to keep that design and to keep the functionality perfect and longevity, there is no other way at that small size, but to do it that way.
That's amazing. When you think of plastic injection molding, effectively, this is steel injection molding with steel particles, for lack of a better sense, powder. And especially going through the heating process for the polymer essentially boils off and leaves just the pure steel, if I understood that right.
Yeah.
So I want to go to something slightly critical or devil's advocate. Looking at your website, Okapa appears to be a premium product, and it retails for around $295. What would you say to critics who might say it's too expensive? And also, how would you describe the typical demographics of your buyers for this product?
Sure. My number one question first to the end consumer, how much worth is health to you? So number one, the health, we're going in the hygiene, right? It goes to the glass. Then you want to have, of course, the best materials. In our case, most of them are medical grade materials. Then you have, of course, the mechanisms which are built in this product, right? The hinge alone, there is even a titanium pin inside the mechanism of the Nitronic 60 to make it smooth, so make it the open and close it smooth. Then you have the closing mechanism in front. Again, it's extremely difficult to give you a very smooth, tactile, and sensory feeling across the board of a product where you have perfect hygiene, perfect health, the best performance and function to give you that. You could call this, yes, expensive. I call it costly. And I would say the way it's done, I would even say it's cheap. And I know what you're saying with the question, right? Everything what I just described with health, all this aspect of the medical grade materials, and then you have that shell. And then at the end of the day, you have even on the top of the top cap, that's Swiss material. Even the spout you drink from, that's a Swiss material. Basically odorless, again, no bacteria buildup. All of this together to serve your health, to have the best feeling about it when you drink the content, I can tell you from this glass is totally different than from a steel bottle or plastic anyway. Or for that matter, from other sort of type of glass. You got to have the borosilicate 3.3. So everything together, and then the feel of it, of course, beautifying it on top of it with the perfect, beautiful colors what we have and the feeling. So it's all about tactile and sensory, focusing on the end result, absolutely, but to put into longevity in terms of function and performance to the end consumer, that justifies the price. A lot of people, Alan, buy a bottle, you spend 50, 60 bucks, you throw it away after a few months sometimes because, it leaks, it has that smell. And studies, by the way, just to add this, Alan, is studies say if you have bacteria in bottles, you should actually almost basically throw it away unless you can boil them. Now, I'm not going to say you should boil ours, but you can. If you want to boil our products, you can boil them. Other products out there, you can't boil. You cannot even put it in a dishwasher. So that's a culmination of all these things together brings you that price because you'll have this for a long time. And if you lose a part or let's say this glass accidentally break, you can order replacement parts. So all this together, we treat this actually as a quote unquote luxury product, which serves everything what you expect. You can criticize, it doesn't stay ice cold for 24 hours. Then I'm saying, if you really want to hydrate properly and hygienic, you have to have the glass. By studies have proven this. So we give you everything. It also lasts a little longer in terms of holding the right temperature. We give you this, just not 24 hours or 12 hours. It's 3-4 hours, right? Which is enough because it's 17 ounces. So again, the price in that is justified. What the people are not used to, Alan, is that the bottle market has always been around 50, 30, whatever, $60. Now suddenly comes a bottle which is $295, $300. I understand the shock in a way because there is no segmentation here yet. Everything else in the market, whether it's jeans, watches, sunglasses, cars, you name it, there is always a segmentation where you have great products, where everything is in there and more, and then you have less expensive. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from any brand out there, but that if you want a certain quality, that is costly.
You made several great points I'd like to together. And when I was listening to you, I thought the answer to that question is if it seems expensive, you could answer it with a question saying, if optimizing hygiene, health, form and function, and duration are important to you, this is the bottle for you. Now, if those things aren't that important, you can go buy something for $30 to $50. That would be the answer. Right?
Exactly.
Regarding that, I've had a couple of other guests on, Cody Sudin, who has Cara Water, and that's a premium product too. Their number one version of it, Cara 2, creates water out of air, basically about 10 quarts a day, I believe. It runs about $5,000. Now, they have a lower priced version that's smaller quantities now. But again, it was the same approach of creating form and function and creating a truly wonderful product and that people are willing to pay for, the same concept. And so that's another example of what might seem to be a premium product, but it's doing something that competitors just don't do.
Yeah, if I may add, you know exactly what you're saying, Alan. If you want to be in charge of the product, like with Okapa, you want to be in charge of every part. You can disassemble it. It's not complex at all. At the very beginning, by the way, I said if a five-year-old cannot disassemble and reassemble their product, then we have nothing. So we did check it. It's very simple. It's very easy. There's all snap functions, right? But you can choose which parts you want to clean, or you can have a deep clean. But exactly what you're saying, if you want hygiene, if you want this sterility, the sterilization of this product, and you want to be in charge of all the little parts and you can clean it, and you really want the quality with the materials, which are proven at the very top. Just to quickly tell you, Nitrionic 60 is being used in operating rooms when the shears, with the surgeons, those are Nitrionic 60. So it's just all of it. You could call it over-engineered. We just had somebody else, but that's what it takes to have a premium product, to really be up there, to give you something. And then again, I would push back, right? $295, is that worth for your house? It did last you a few years versus something you have to throw away again, or we spend God knows how much money for vitamin pills and all this. To put it in relation and put it in perspective, what's $295 doing actually for your health?
I so agree. I think you've made a really super case for that. And as we roll towards a close, I'd like to ask you, are there any parting words you'd like to leave us with?
First of all, thank you for having me, Alan. And I think my message just in general to people, I think there is always, innovation always has an additional thought in many ways. And in this particular case, our innovative thinking goes to make something better for the end consumer and to disrupt a massive utilitarian market and push through with a new message. Funny, everybody complains about plastics, this, that, smell, and all this, and suddenly people want to push back and say, okay, it's expensive. Don't just judge the book by its cover. If you really want to understand, like the questions you asked me are great, Alan, right? If you want to understand something in detail, look behind. As I always said, we are managing the invisible. There's a lot written about us. We have hidden secrets built in that bottle, whether it's material choice, engineering choice, 10 years of R&D. We have all these patents, 70. That's all not for nothing. There is a value. So don't just take it for what it is and gulp water from a bottle and then say, okay, what does it do to me? I'm just drinking. You're drinking from the perfect item, and hydration is a vital thing. So that's why look at it that way and really understand what's invisible, what is in there, what's given to you at that level.
That is so great. And my final question for you then is, how can listeners reach you if they have other questions?
Support at okapa.com, our website. They can easily go on and get a lot of information there, and our customer service is there as well, and we will answer questions. You can, as if you go on the Okapa website, there is also support at okapa.com. It's clearly shown there, and then we are very much open to answer any question or give you feedback or whatever. This is all. We love to do that, actually.
And as I was looking, if they go to the website, okapa.com, it's okapa.com, they'll see
Exactly.
all the beautiful colors and all the offerings that are available and a lot of information about it. And they can reach, again, if they need more information, at support@okapa.com.
Yes, that's our wonderful retail environment. If you've looked at that, Alan, just quickly, it took us forever. This website is cutting edge in terms of technology. One more thing I want to add is at the end, we are really literally 3 companies in one. We are I would say a fashion lifestyle company. We are an engineering company, and we are a cyber tech company. Cyber tech, the way our website is built, there is nothing out there at this point which is at that level. It took us forever. We have the best digital engineers here in the States who have worked on this, and all the content you see there is just completely different and a very high level. So again, yes, thank you. The site, okapa.com, you get all the information, and we are very happy to answer any questions out there.
Well, Hardy, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. I really appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing your journey and sharing, as you said, what's under the cover about this unique product, this uniquely designed water bottle that really is clearly at the top of the market and quite superior to pretty much anything out there, the way you're describing it, any other competitor. But anyways, I appreciate you being on, and would like to reserve the opportunity maybe in 6 months or a year to reach out to you again and find out what you've got going on at that time.
Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate it also. Very nice meeting you and enjoyed our interview. And yeah, feel free. I'm here. I'm always reachable.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you. Take care, Alan.
You too. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inventors Helping Inventors. If you like the show, please tell your friends about it. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts so you won't miss a single episode. Talk to you soon.